They sent her to observe. Liaison duties, they called it. Smile, take notes, don't get involved. But when the unit leader froze under pressure and coordination fell apart, she stepped forward. Calm, strategic, and decisive, she took over radio traffic, restructured the plan, and redirected fire teams mid-op. What started as chaos became controlled precision. By the time backup arrived, the mission was already a success, and the woman they sent just to watch had quietly taken command. From which country around the world are you watching this video today? If you enjoy stories that blend military precision with unexpected leadership under pressure, consider subscribing for more content that explores how true command emerges not from rank, but from competence when it matters most. The morning briefing at Joint Task Force headquarters in Kabul had begun with the methodical precision that characterized coalition operations in Afghanistan's most challenging operational environment. Colonel Sarah Martinez entered the Secure Operations Center at exactly 0545 hours, her polished combat boots silent against the reinforced concrete floor despite carrying the weight of 15 years of military service across 3 different combat theaters. The facility, buried beneath layers of ballistic protection and sophisticated electronic countermeasures, hummed with the constant activity of coordinating multinational forces operating across one of the world's most complex battlefields. Lieutenant Colonel Rebecca Stone stood at attention beside the primary intelligence workstation, her experienced eyes scanning holographic displays that showed real-time tactical data from ongoing operations across 6 provinces. At 38, Stone possessed analytical capabilities that consistently earned recognition from senior coalition commanders, with advanced degrees in international relations and strategic studies from the Naval War College. Her personnel record contained commendations for operational planning, multinational coordination, and the rare ability to maintain clarity during situations where political complexity intersected with tactical urgency. Status report, Colonel, Martinez said, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had earned respect through demonstrated competence in environments where leadership mistakes cost lives. Martinez's weathered features reflected the accumulated stress of multiple combat deployments, but her gray eyes held the sharp alertness of a professional soldier who understood that successful coalition operations required balancing military effectiveness with diplomatic sensitivity. Stone activated the primary tactical display, bringing up real-time tracking data from Operation Northern Shield, a multinational counterterrorism operation involving American, British, German, and Afghan forces operating in coordinated sweeps across mountain terrain that had sheltered hostile forces for decades. Color-coded indicators showed friendly positions in blue, confirmed enemy locations in red, and areas of uncertain control in amber, painting a complex picture of modern asymmetric warfare. Sir, Operation Northern Shield is proceeding according to planned timeline, Stone reported, highlighting specific tactical positions on the 3-dimensional terrain display. Coalition forces have established blocking positions along primary infiltration routes, while multinational reconnaissance teams maintain surveillance on suspected enemy staging areas. She gestured towards secondary displays showing communication intercepts, drone surveillance footage, and intelligence assessments that provided commanders with unprecedented situational awareness across hundreds of square kilometers of contested territory. Current intelligence indicates enemy forces are attempting to establish new supply routes through tribal areas where coalition presence has been limited. Martinez studied the intelligence data, noting patterns that suggested enemy adaptation to coalition tactical methods. Assessment of enemy capabilities and intentions. Stone manipulated the display to show historical pattern analysis comparing current enemy activities with previous operations. Intelligence suggests they're implementing more sophisticated coordination between local tribal groups and external terrorist organizations. Their operational security has improved significantly, and they're demonstrating tactical patience that suggests longer-term strategic planning. The assessment indicated that enemy forces were evolving beyond simple insurgency tactics toward more complex operational approaches that required coalition responses extending beyond conventional military action. Martinez recognized that successful operations in this environment demanded coordination between military effectiveness and cultural awareness that few commanders possessed. Before Stone could continue her briefing, The Operations Center's secure entrance opened and Brigadier General David Harrison entered, accompanied by his aide and two officers Martinez didn't immediately recognize. Harrison, an imposing figure whose presence commanded immediate attention, represented the type of traditional military leadership that had achieved success through decisive action and clear command authority in conventional combat environments. Colonel Martinez, Harrison announced, settling into his position at the head of the tactical coordination table. I'm here to finalize operational assignments for Phase 2 of Northern Shield. This expansion will require precise coordination between multiple coalition units operating in terrain that presents significant challenges for traditional command and control. The Operations Center's atmosphere shifted subtly as senior staff recognized that their planning was being elevated to theater-level significance. Stone maintained her professional demeanor while activating additional intelligence displays that would support strategic decision-making. General, would you like a comprehensive briefing on current operational status and intelligence assessments? Martinez offered. Harrison studied the tactical displays showing the complex web of coalition positions, enemy activities, and civilian populations that define the operational environment. Give me your assessment of command assignments for the expanded operation, Colonel. We need leaders who can maintain operational effectiveness while coordinating with tribal authorities and civilian populations. Martinez activated personnel files for senior commanders operating in the region, beginning with Lieutenant Colonel James Morrison, whose aggressive leadership style had achieved significant tactical successes in conventional combat operations. Morrison's record showed consistently superior performance in direct action missions where clear objectives could be achieved through superior firepower and tactical initiative. Lieutenant Colonel Morrison has demonstrated exceptional leadership in direct action operations, Martinez reported. His units consistently achieve tactical objectives with minimal casualties and maximum operational effectiveness. Harrison nodded approvingly as he reviewed Morrison's performance data. Excellent. This type of decisive leadership will be essential for Phase 2 operations where hesitation could allow enemy forces to escape or reposition. Stone exchanged a glance with Martinez, both recognizing that Harrison's preferences aligned with traditional military leadership characteristics that emphasized aggressive action and rapid decision-making. The civilian liaison officer present, a woman in her early 40s wearing business attire rather than military uniform, studied the displays with particular attention to cultural complexity indicators that weren't typically emphasized in operational planning. And your other command recommendations? Harrison continued. Martinez presented data for additional senior officers, each demonstrating similar patterns of aggressive leadership and proven effectiveness in conventional military operations. Their performance profiles showed the type of bold decision-making and tactical initiative that had traditionally defined successful military leadership. What about liaison coordination with tribal authorities and civilian populations? The civilian officer asked, her question directing attention toward operational complexities that extended beyond purely military considerations. Harrison glanced at the liaison officer with polite attention. Ms. Chun, multinational operations certainly require coordination with local authorities, but Phase 2 success will depend primarily on military effectiveness and tactical coordination between coalition units. Ms. Elena Chun, representing the State Department's Conflict Resolution Division, studied cultural complexity assessments that showed tribal relationships and political sensitivities that could significantly influence operational success. General, intelligence suggests that tribal cooperation will be essential for long-term operational effectiveness in this region. Harrison's expression showed respectful disagreement with Chin's emphasis on non-military factors. Ms. Chun, while cultural awareness is certainly valuable, military operations succeed through decisive leadership and superior tactical execution. Political considerations can be addressed after tactical objectives are achieved. Stone found herself caught between competing operational philosophies that emphasized different aspects of modern coalition warfare. Military effectiveness clearly required aggressive leadership and tactical initiative, but operational success in complex cultural environments might demand different leadership characteristics entirely. As they discussed command assignments, Martinez noticed that Chun was studying personnel files for officers whose records emphasized cultural awareness, multinational coordination, and tactical patience rather than purely aggressive leadership characteristics. General, Chen said carefully, State Department analysis suggests that Phase 2 success might require leaders who can balance military effectiveness with cultural sensitivity and diplomatic awareness. Harrison studied Chen's assessment with professional courtesy but obvious skepticism. Ms. Chen, diplomatic considerations are certainly important for long-term regional stability, but immediate operational success requires commanders who can make tactical decisions rapidly and decisively. Chen activated cultural analysis displays showing tribal territories, historical grievances, and political relationships that would influence local responses to coalition operations. General, these cultural factors could determine whether tactical success translates into strategic effectiveness or creates long-term complications that undermine coalition objectives. Martinez recognized that this discussion was revealing fundamental tensions between military effectiveness and diplomatic complexity that defined modern coalition operations. Traditional military leadership emphasized characteristics that might not align with the cultural awareness required for sustainable operational success. Perhaps we should consider assigning liaison officers to coordinate between military commanders and tribal authorities, Martinez suggested diplomatically. Harrison nodded approvingly. Excellent recommendation, Colonel. Liaison assignments can address cultural considerations while allowing military commanders to focus on tactical effectiveness. Chen studied the personnel files more carefully, her attention focusing on records that showed different leadership characteristics than those emphasized by traditional military selection criteria. General, some liaison assignments might require officers with specific cultural awareness and multinational coordination experience. Stone activated additional personnel displays showing officers whose records emphasized language capabilities, cultural training, and experience in complex multinational environments. Among these files, one record stood out for its combination of tactical competence and cultural awareness that exceeded typical requirements for liaison assignments. Lieutenant Colonel Rebecca Stone, Chen said, studying the personnel file with obvious interest. Her record shows exceptional cultural awareness combined with proven tactical competence in multinational operations. Harrison glanced at Stone's file with polite attention. Colonel Stone is certainly qualified for liaison duties, though her talents might be better utilized in tactical command positions where her military expertise can have maximum impact. Chen continued studying Stone's record, noting performance evaluations that emphasized exactly the type of balanced leadership that complex cultural environments required. General, Colonel Stone's experience might make her ideal for coordinating between military effectiveness and cultural sensitivity requirements. Martinez understood that Chen was advocating for leadership assignments that prioritized different characteristics than those traditionally emphasized in military command selection. Stone's record showed competence in both military operations and cultural awareness, but liaison assignments typically represented secondary roles rather than primary leadership positions. Ms. Chen, Harrison said diplomatically, while Colonel Stone would certainly excel in liaison duties, Phase 2 operations require primary commanders who can maintain tactical initiative under combat conditions. Stone listened to the discussion with growing understanding that her qualifications were being evaluated for supporting roles rather than primary leadership positions. Her combination of tactical competence and cultural awareness was valued, but not considered appropriate for the type of decisive command authority that traditional military operations required. As they finalized command assignments, Chen requested permission to assign Stone as primary liaison coordinator for the most culturally sensitive aspects of Phase 2 operations. The assignment would place her in positions where cultural awareness was essential, but would limit her authority to advisory rather than command responsibilities. Colonel Stone, Harrison said, addressing her directly, "You'll be assigned as senior liaison coordinator with primary responsibility for tribal relations and civilian population coordination. Your role will be to observe, assess, and provide cultural guidance to tactical commanders as required." Stone accepted the assignment with professional courtesy, understanding that liaison duties represented important but secondary responsibilities. Her tactical competence and cultural awareness would be utilized, but within limitations that reflected traditional military hierarchy and command authority structures. 3 weeks later, Stone found herself attached to Lieutenant Colonel Morrison's tactical unit as they prepared for the most complex phase of Operation Northern Shield. The mission required coordination between multiple coalition forces operating in tribal territories where cultural sensitivity was as important as tactical effectiveness. Morrison's command post, established in a forward operating base positioned strategically between 3 tribal territories, buzzed with the activity of final preparations for operations that would test coalition coordination capabilities under the most challenging conditions. Stone's liaison duties required her to maintain coordination with tribal representatives while providing cultural guidance to Morrison's tactical planning staff. Colonel Stone, Morrison said, reviewing final operational orders at his command table, "I need your assessment of tribal cooperation for tomorrow's operations." Stone activated cultural intelligence displays showing tribal territories, leadership structures, and historical relationships that would influence local responses to coalition military activities. "Sir, tribal leaders have expressed conditional cooperation, but they're concerned about civilian casualties and long-term coalition intentions in their territories." Morrison studied her assessment with professional interest, but his focus remained on tactical coordination rather than cultural complexity. "What's their level of active support for our operations?" "Passive cooperation, sir," Stone replied. "They won't actively oppose coalition operations, but they won't provide intelligence or direct assistance unless they're confident that our tactical methods won't create long-term problems for their communities." Morrison nodded, filing Stone's assessment with other intelligence updates that would inform his tactical decision-making. "Understood. Maintain coordination with tribal representatives, but our primary focus needs to be tactical effectiveness and mission accomplishment." As Morrison's unit prepared for operations, Stone established liaison protocols that would maintain communication with tribal authorities while supporting tactical coordination requirements. Her role emphasized observation and advisory support rather than direct command authority, but she recognized that cultural factors could significantly influence operational success regardless of tactical effectiveness. The next morning, Morrison's unit initiated operations in terrain that represented the intersection of military necessity and cultural complexity. Coalition forces needed to establish security in areas where tribal authorities maintained traditional governance structures that predated modern state boundaries by centuries. Stone accompanied the tactical command element as an observer, maintaining communication with tribal representatives while monitoring how tactical decisions affected cultural relationships. Her liaison duties required careful balance between military effectiveness and cultural sensitivity that could determine long-term operational success. As operations progressed, tactical situations developed that tested Morrison's aggressive leadership style against cultural complexities that traditional military approaches struggled to address effectively. Morrison's tactical competence was unquestionable, but the operational environment required coordination with tribal authorities whose priorities didn't align with purely military objectives. Stone monitored communication between Morrison's tactical units and tribal representatives, recognizing growing tension between military effectiveness and cultural awareness that threatened to undermine operational success despite tactical achievements. Her liaison position provided perspective on problems that weren't apparent from purely military viewpoints. "Colonel Morrison," she said during a tactical coordination briefing, "tribal representatives are expressing concern about the pace and intensity of our operations. They're worried that our tactical methods might trigger responses from other tribal groups that could complicate our security objectives." Morrison studied tactical displays showing successful completion of immediate objectives. "Colonel Stone, our tactical performance has been exemplary. Mission objectives are being achieved ahead of schedule with minimal casualties." Stone recognized the tension between tactical success and strategic complexity that defined modern coalition operations. "Sir, immediate tactical success is certainly important, but tribal leaders are concerned about longer-term implications that extend beyond current mission parameters." Morrison's expression showed professional respect for Stone's cultural awareness combined with focus on immediate tactical requirements. "Colonel, cultural considerations are certainly valuable, but operational success requires maintaining tactical momentum and achieving military objectives according to established timelines." As operations continued, Stone observed how tactical decisions created ripple effects through tribal relationships that weren't captured by traditional military assessment criteria. Morrison's aggressive leadership achieved tactical objectives effectively, but cultural complications were developing that could affect long-term operational sustainability. During a particularly complex tactical situation involving multiple coalition units operating near civilian populations, Morrison faced decisions that required balancing immediate tactical effectiveness against cultural sensitivities that could influence tribal cooperation for months or years. Stone maintained her observation and liaison duties while recognizing that the operational environment was presenting challenges that traditional command approaches struggled to address comprehensively. Cultural factors were becoming as important as tactical considerations for determining operational success. Then, during what appeared to be a routine coordination mission, the operational situation changed dramatically in ways that would test every assumption about leadership, command authority, and tactical effectiveness in complex multinational environments. Morrison's tactical unit received intelligence about enemy forces establishing positions that threatened both coalition security and civilian populations in tribal territories where cultural relationships were particularly sensitive. The tactical response required immediate action, but cultural implications demanded careful coordination with tribal authorities whose cooperation was essential for long-term operational success. As Morrison prepared tactical responses, communication systems experienced failures that disrupted coordination between coalition units operating across multiple tribal territories. The technical problems created command and control challenges that traditional military solutions couldn't address without risking cultural complications that could undermine months of relationship building. Morrison's aggressive leadership style, which had achieved consistent tactical success in conventional operations, suddenly encountered an operational environment where immediate tactical action could create strategic complications extending far beyond immediate military objectives. The cultural complexity that Stone had been monitoring as a liaison observer was becoming central to tactical decision-making. "Colonel Stone," Morrison said, his voice showing stress as communication problems multiplied, "I need your assessment of how tribal authorities will respond to immediate tactical action in their territories." Stone studied cultural intelligence displays while monitoring deteriorating communication between coalition units whose coordination was essential for both tactical effectiveness and cultural sensitivity. "Sir, immediate action without tribal consultation could trigger responses that complicate our tactical situation significantly." Morrison faced the type of leadership challenge that traditional military training struggled to address comprehensively. Tactical effectiveness required immediate action, but cultural awareness suggested that hasty decisions could create problems extending far beyond current mission parameters. As communication systems continued to malfunction and tactical coordination became increasingly complex, Morrison found himself in an operational environment where traditional aggressive leadership approaches encountered limitations that tactical competence alone couldn't overcome. Stone, observing from her liaison position, recognized that the developing situation required leadership characteristics that balanced tactical effectiveness with cultural awareness in ways that traditional command structures hadn't anticipated. Her role as observer was about to become much more significant than anyone had planned. The tactical situation was deteriorating rapidly, and traditional command approaches were proving inadequate for addressing the complex intersection of military effectiveness and cultural sensitivity that defined modern coalition operations in tribal territories. Morrison's aggressive leadership style, while tactically sound, was encountering operational limitations that required different leadership characteristics entirely. Stone realized that her liaison observations were about to become critical for operational success in ways that traditional command assignments hadn't anticipated. The cultural awareness that had been considered secondary to tactical leadership was becoming essential for mission success in an operational environment where traditional approaches were proving inadequate. Communication failures had created a tactical situation where immediate decisions could determine not only mission success, but long-term coalition relationships with tribal authorities whose cooperation was essential for regional stability. Morrison's tactical competence was unquestionable, But the operational complexity required leadership characteristics that extended beyond traditional military command capabilities. Stone understood that her position as an observer was about to transform into something much more significant, as the tactical situation required leadership that could balance immediate military effectiveness with cultural awareness and multinational coordination in ways that traditional command structures struggled to achieve. The mission that had begun as routine tactical operations was about to test fundamental assumptions about leadership, command authority, and tactical effectiveness in operational environments where cultural complexity was as important as military capability for determining success or failure. As communication systems failed and tactical coordination became increasingly complex, Stone prepared to step beyond her observer role in ways that would challenge traditional concepts of command authority and tactical leadership. The cultural awareness that had been dismissed as secondary to tactical competence was about to prove essential for operational success. Morrison's aggressive leadership was encountering limitations that tactical training alone couldn't overcome, and Stone's balanced approach to military effectiveness and cultural sensitivity was about to be tested in operational conditions where traditional command approaches were proving inadequate for mission success. The operational environment was demanding leadership characteristics that traditional military selection criteria had consistently undervalued, and Stone's combination of tactical competence and cultural awareness was about to prove essential for success in ways that conventional command structures hadn't anticipated. As tactical situations continued to deteriorate and communication failures multiplied, Stone realized that her observer role was about to become central to operational success in an environment where cultural awareness was as important as tactical effectiveness for achieving mission objectives and maintaining coalition relationships with tribal authorities. The mission was about to test whether leadership based on cultural awareness and multinational coordination could prove more effective than traditional aggressive command approaches in operational environments where tactical success required balancing immediate military effectiveness with long-term strategic considerations that extended far beyond conventional tactical objectives. Stone prepared to demonstrate that effective leadership in complex multinational operations required characteristics that traditional military command selection had consistently overlooked, and that tactical success in cultural environments demanded leadership approaches that balanced immediate effectiveness with strategic awareness of longer-term implications. Her liaison position was about to become a command role in ways that would challenge fundamental assumptions about military leadership, tactical effectiveness, and the relationship between aggressive action and operational success in environments where cultural complexity was as important as tactical competence for mission achievement. As the situation continued to develop, Stone recognized that the operational environment was about to test every assumption about leadership, command authority, and tactical effectiveness in modern coalition warfare. Her balanced approach to military and cultural considerations was about to prove essential for success in ways that traditional command approaches couldn't achieve. The tactical situation was demanding leadership that could coordinate immediate military effectiveness with cultural sensitivity and multinational cooperation in an operational environment where traditional aggressive command approaches were proving inadequate for comprehensive mission success. Stone's observer role was transforming into active leadership as communication failures and tactical complications created an operational environment where cultural awareness and multinational coordination were becoming as important as tactical competence for achieving mission objectives and maintaining coalition effectiveness. The mission was about to demonstrate that effective leadership in complex cultural environments required characteristics that traditional military command selection had consistently undervalued, and that operational success demanded leadership approaches that could balance tactical effectiveness with strategic awareness of cultural and political implications. As tactical coordination continued to deteriorate and communication systems remained unreliable, Stone prepared to step into active command responsibilities that would test her ability to balance immediate tactical requirements with cultural sensitivity and multinational coordination in an operational environment where traditional approaches were proving inadequate. Morrison's unit faced tactical challenges that aggressive leadership alone couldn't overcome, while tribal authorities required cultural awareness and diplomatic sensitivity that traditional military command approaches struggled to provide effectively. The operational environment was demanding leadership that could coordinate both requirements simultaneously. Stone's liaison position had evolved into recognition that successful operations required leadership characteristics that balanced tactical competence with cultural awareness in ways that traditional command structures hadn't anticipated, and that mission success might depend on approaches that differed significantly from conventional military leadership methods. The developing tactical situation was about to test fundamental assumptions about command authority, leadership effectiveness, and the relationship between tactical competence and operational success in environments where cultural complexity was as important as military capability for achieving coalition objectives. As communication failures persisted and tactical coordination became increasingly challenging, Stone realized that her balanced approach to military effectiveness and cultural sensitivity was about to be tested in operational conditions that would determine not only immediate mission success, but long-term coalition relationships with tribal authorities whose cooperation was essential for regional stability. The operational environment was demanding leadership that could address both tactical effectiveness and cultural complexity simultaneously, and Stone's combination of military competence and cultural awareness was positioned to provide exactly the type of balanced leadership that the situation required for comprehensive mission success. Morrison faced tactical challenges that traditional aggressive leadership approaches couldn't resolve completely, while tribal authorities required cultural sensitivity and diplomatic awareness that extended beyond conventional military command capabilities. The mission was about to test whether balanced leadership could achieve what traditional approaches couldn't accomplish. Stone prepared to demonstrate that effective leadership in complex multinational operations required characteristics that traditional military selection criteria had overlooked, and that tactical success in cultural environments demanded leadership approaches that could coordinate immediate effectiveness with strategic awareness of longer-term implications. Her observer role was transforming into active command responsibility as the operational environment revealed that successful coalition operations required leadership that could balance tactical competence with cultural awareness and multinational coordination in ways that traditional command structures struggled to achieve effectively. The mission was about to become a test of whether leadership based on balanced military and cultural competence could prove more effective than traditional aggressive command approaches in operational environments where immediate tactical success required coordination with cultural sensitivity and strategic awareness that extended beyond conventional military objectives. As tactical situations continued to deteriorate and communication challenges multiplied, Stone's balanced approach to leadership was about to be tested in conditions that would determine whether cultural awareness and multinational coordination could provide operational advantages that traditional aggressive leadership approaches couldn't achieve in complex coalition environments. The developing crisis was about to demonstrate that effective leadership in modern coalition operations required characteristics that traditional military command selection had consistently undervalued, and that mission success might depend on leadership approaches that could balance immediate tactical effectiveness with cultural sensitivity and strategic awareness in ways that conventional command methods struggled to accomplish. Then, at 1,347 hours, everything changed. A massive improvised explosive device detonated near Morrison's forward command post, creating casualties and communication disruptions that transformed routine tactical operations into a crisis requiring immediate leadership under conditions that tested every assumption about command authority and tactical effectiveness. Morrison was among the casualties, suffering injuries that required immediate medical evacuation and left his tactical unit without command authority during a critical operational phase. Communication systems that had been experiencing technical difficulties suffered additional damage, creating coordination challenges that threatened mission success and coalition safety. Stone, positioned as a liaison observer, suddenly found herself in an operational environment where traditional command structures had been disrupted and immediate leadership was required for tactical decisions that could determine mission success and coalition casualties. The tactical situation demanded immediate action, but cultural complications required coordination with tribal authorities whose cooperation was essential for both tactical effectiveness and long-term operational success. Traditional military command procedures provided limited guidance for situations where cultural awareness was as important as tactical competence for mission achievement. Stone faced a leadership challenge that tested her ability to balance immediate tactical requirements with cultural sensitivity and multinational coordination in an operational environment where aggressive action could achieve tactical objectives while creating strategic complications that would persist for months or years. The explosion had created tactical urgency that demanded immediate response, but cultural factors required careful coordination with tribal authorities whose territories were affected by coalition operations. Stone's balanced approach to military effectiveness and cultural awareness was about to be tested under operational conditions that traditional command training hadn't anticipated. As coalition units awaited orders and tribal representatives sought assurance about coalition intentions, Stone realized that her observer role had transformed into active command responsibility for decisions that would determine both immediate mission success and long-term coalition relationships with local authorities. The operational environment was testing whether leadership based on balanced military and cultural competence could prove more effective than traditional aggressive command approaches in situations where tactical success required coordination between immediate effectiveness and strategic awareness of cultural implications. Stone stepped into command authority that circumstances had thrust upon her, recognizing that the tactical situation required leadership that could address both military effectiveness and cultural sensitivity simultaneously. Her balanced approach to coalition operations was about to be tested under conditions that would determine mission success and regional stability. The crisis had created an operational environment where cultural awareness and multinational coordination were as important as tactical competence for achieving objectives, and Stone's combination of military capability and cultural sensitivity was positioned to provide exactly the type of leadership that the situation demanded. As she assumed command responsibilities that traditional structures hadn't anticipated, Stone prepared to demonstrate that effective leadership in complex coalition environments required characteristics that conventional military selection criteria had consistently overlooked, and that operational success demanded approaches that balanced immediate tactical effectiveness with strategic awareness of cultural and political implications. Her liaison position had evolved into recognition that modern coalition operations required leadership that could coordinate military effectiveness with cultural sensitivity in ways that traditional command approaches struggled to achieve, and that mission success might depend on leadership characteristics that differed significantly from conventional military command methods. The tactical situation was about to test fundamental assumptions about command authority, leadership effectiveness, and the relationship between tactical competence and operational success in environments where cultural complexity was as important as military capability for achieving coalition objectives and maintaining regional stability. Stone's moment of leadership under crisis conditions was about to demonstrate whether balanced approaches to military and cultural considerations could prove more effective than traditional aggressive command methods in operational environments where immediate tactical success required coordination with strategic awareness that extended beyond conventional military objectives. As she took control of coalition operations during a critical phase, Stone prepared to prove that effective leadership in complex multinational environments required characteristics that traditional military command selection had undervalued, and that tactical success in cultural environments demanded leadership approaches that could balance immediate effectiveness with cultural sensitivity and strategic awareness. The operational crisis was testing whether her observer role could transform into command authority that would achieve both immediate tactical objectives and long-term strategic success through leadership that coordinated military effectiveness with cultural awareness and multinational cooperation in ways that traditional approaches couldn't accomplish comprehensively. Stone's assumption of command during crisis conditions was about to become a defining moment that would test whether leadership based on balanced military and cultural competence could prove superior to traditional aggressive approaches in operational environments where tactical effectiveness required coordination with cultural sensitivity and strategic thinking that extended beyond immediate military objectives. Her leadership during the crisis would demonstrate that effective command in modern coalition operations required characteristics that traditional selection criteria had overlooked, and that mission success demanded approaches that could balance tactical competence with cultural awareness in ways that conventional military command methods struggled to achieve in complex multinational environments. The developing situation was about to prove that Stone's balanced approach to leadership could provide operational advantages that traditional aggressive command approaches couldn't accomplish in environments where cultural complexity was as important as tactical effectiveness for achieving mission success and maintaining coalition relationships with local authorities whose cooperation was essential for regional stability. As Stone assumed command authority during a critical operational phase, her leadership was about to demonstrate that modern coalition warfare required characteristics that traditional military selection had consistently undervalued, and that tactical success in cultural environments demanded leadership approaches that could coordinate immediate effectiveness with strategic awareness of longer-term implications for regional stability and coalition objectives. Her transformation from observer to commander was about to test whether balanced leadership could achieve comprehensive mission success in operational environments where traditional aggressive approaches had proven inadequate for addressing the complex intersection of tactical effectiveness and cultural sensitivity that defined modern coalition operations in tribal territories. Stone's assumption of command during crisis conditions represented a fundamental test of whether leadership based on cultural awareness and multinational coordination could prove more effective than traditional military command approaches in situations where tactical success required balancing immediate objectives with strategic considerations that extended far beyond conventional military parameters. The operational environment was about to demonstrate that effective leadership in complex coalition operations required characteristics that traditional command selection had overlooked, and that mission success demanded approaches that could coordinate tactical competence with cultural sensitivity and strategic thinking in ways that conventional aggressive leadership struggled to accomplish in multinational environments where cultural complexity was as important as military capability. Stone's leadership during the crisis would prove that her balanced approach to military effectiveness and cultural awareness could provide operational advantages that traditional command methods couldn't achieve in environments where immediate tactical success required coordination with cultural sensitivity and strategic awareness that extended beyond conventional military objectives to encompass long-term coalition, relationships, and regional stability considerations. As she stepped into command authority that circumstances had created, Stone prepared to demonstrate that effective leadership in modern coalition warfare required characteristics that traditional military selection criteria had consistently undervalued, and that operational success demanded leadership approaches that could balance immediate tactical effectiveness with cultural awareness and multinational coordination in ways that conventional command structures struggled to accomplish comprehensively. Her assumption of command during crisis conditions was about to become a defining demonstration that leadership based on balanced military and cultural competence could prove superior to traditional aggressive approaches in operational environments where tactical effectiveness required strategic thinking and cultural sensitivity that extended beyond immediate military objectives to encompass broader considerations of coalition relationships and regional stability. Stone's leadership during the operational crisis would test whether her observer role could transform into command authority that achieved both immediate tactical success and long-term strategic objectives through approaches that coordinated military effectiveness with cultural awareness in ways that traditional aggressive command methods couldn't accomplish in complex multinational environments where cultural considerations were as important as tactical competence for mission achievement. The developing situation was about to prove that Stone's balanced approach to coalition operations could provide leadership advantages that traditional military command approaches couldn't achieve in environments where immediate tactical success required coordination with cultural sensitivity and strategic awareness that extended beyond conventional military parameters to encompass broader implications for coalition effectiveness and regional stability. As Stone assumed command responsibilities during a critical operational phase, her leadership was about to demonstrate that modern coalition warfare required characteristics that traditional selection criteria had overlooked, and that tactical success demanded approaches that could balance immediate effectiveness with cultural awareness and strategic thinking in ways that conventional aggressive leadership struggled to accomplish in multinational environments where cultural complexity was as important as military capability. Her transformation from liaison observer to operational commander was about to test fundamental assumptions about leadership effectiveness, command authority, and the relationship between tactical competence and mission success in environments where cultural awareness and multinational coordination were as important as aggressive action for achieving coalition objectives and maintaining relationships with local authorities whose cooperation was essential for long-term operational effectiveness. Stone's assumption of command during crisis conditions represented the ultimate test of whether leadership based on balanced military and cultural competence could prove more effective than traditional approaches in operational environments where tactical success required strategic thinking and cultural sensitivity that extended beyond immediate military objectives to encompass comprehensive mission achievement and regional stability considerations that would influence coalition operations for years to come.